For 3 years, Riley Bennett arrived every morning at precisely 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes before her shift officially started, carrying a perfectly organized leather planner, 2 black coffees, one with oat milk, one black, and the unshakable calm of someone who had learned how to survive a battlefield without ever stepping on a mine. Her battlefield had a name: Sienna Hartwell,
CL.
billionaire, untouchable. The woman moved like she didn't need air to breathe, like the world itself waited for her to make a decision before turning. Her office was glass and steel and frost, and her voice was colder than both. Everyone in the building knew not to cross her. They whispered stories in the break room about assistants who lasted less than a week, executives who walked out of boardrooms shaking, interns who cried in elevators. But not Riley. Riley lasted. Riley thrived. Riley memorized the way Sienna liked her pens lined up, silver tips out, uncapped. Riley anticipated mood shifts before they surfaced. She scheduled calls before Sienna asked and canceled them before Sienna knew she didn't want them. Riley learned to translate silence into action. She was indispensable, invisible, until the day she wasn't. It started with a number, a minor discrepancy in a quarterly report, a line item that didn't match. Riley flagged it, sent 3 emails, left 2 voicemails. No one responded. Then came the board meeting. 12 powerful people around a long obsidian table, and Sienna at the head like a queen presiding over a throne of ice. Riley stood behind her, silent as always, notes prepared, digital copies loaded, every contingency mapped. And then Sienna turned. Sharp. Cold. The error in the Q2 projections, she said, was due to a miscommunication from my assistant. Riley, do you have anything to say? A hush. Riley's mouth went dry. Excuse me? You were the one responsible for consolidating the departmental reports. That discrepancy originated from your draft. That's not true. Her voice was quiet, firm. Sienna didn't blink. So, you're denying it? I'm saying I raised it. I flagged it in time. I sent multiple emails to your chief analyst. He didn't respond. I forwarded the documentation to your inbox 3 days ago. A pause. A long, uncomfortable one. And then a chuckle. From one of the board members. Looks like someone came prepared. That was when something snapped. Not in anger. In clarity. Riley stepped forward, voice suddenly steady, cutting. I've worked here for 3 years. I've come in early, stayed late, fixed problems you didn't even know existed. I've cleaned up your messes, soothed your investors, kept your press off your back, and built the systems that allow this company to run like a machine. And in return, I get blamed for someone else's incompetence in front of a room full of people because you didn't bother to check your facts. The room went quiet again. Someone dropped a pen. Sienna's eyes narrowed, but there was something else there. A flicker. Surprise? Fear? Riley didn't care. Effective immediately, I resign. A breath caught somewhere in the room. But before I go, let me make one thing clear. This company runs not because you're brilliant, though you are, but because people like me made you look infallible. You don't inspire loyalty. You command fear. And someday, someone with real power will no longer be afraid of you. I hope, for your sake, they're kinder than you've been to every person who's worked themselves into the ground to keep your empire afloat. Then she turned, walked out, just like that. No tears, no regrets. And Sienna Hartwell, untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable, didn't say a single word to stop her. That was the moment Riley stopped being invisible. That was the moment the world noticed. By the time she reached the elevator, someone had posted a video clip. 30 seconds of fire. A secretary snapping. A billionaire boss speechless. It hit 1 million views before dinner. Riley didn't answer any of the media calls. She didn't open her email. She didn't even go home. She checked into a hotel, ordered pasta she couldn't taste, and stared at the city lights like they might offer her an answer. She should have felt terrified. She just walked away from everything. But all she felt was free. Across town, Sienna sat in her office long after dark. The windows reflected the city. The numbers on her screen blurred. For the first time in her career, she couldn't focus. Her staff was quiet. Her phone buzzed. Another executive asking if she was okay. Another message from PR. Another article calling Riley's speech the corporate mic drop of the decade. Sienna closed her laptop. The silence in her office didn't feel calm anymore. It felt empty, echoing. And in the space Riley used to occupy, there was nothing but absence. The chair she never sat in. The mug she never took home. The scent of something clean and soft and stubborn. Sienna poured a drink. Didn't touch it. For the first time in her life, she wondered, what happens when the one person who saw through you walks away? Riley didn't check her phone for 3 days. Not because she wanted to be dramatic, but because the idea of seeing Sienna Hartwell's name flash across her screen made something uncomfortably tight twist in her chest. It wasn't fear. It wasn't regret. It was something colder. Something that tasted like betrayal with a hint of wasted years. So instead, she slept until noon, something she hadn't done in 5 years, and woke up to sunlight rather than fluorescent overhead office lights and Sienna's clipped voice demanding updates. She took long showers, drank mediocre hotel coffee, and wrote down ideas in a notebook she'd been carrying for months, but never had time to open. Business ideas. Organizational strategies. Names for the company she never thought she'd start, but now couldn't stop imagining. Her inbox overflowed. Journalists. Former colleagues. Old professors. People she hadn't heard from in years were suddenly fascinated by her story, by her voice, by the girl who had stood up to one of the most terrifying women in corporate America and walked away with her spine intact. She ignored them all. Her story wasn't theirs. Not yet. Not for free. Across the city, inside a high-rise office that suddenly felt too quiet, Sienna Hartwell was unraveling. Not outwardly. Outwardly, she was perfect. As always. Tailored suits. Flawless presentations. Strategic meetings. But something was off. And everyone could feel it. Emails went unanswered. Meetings ran long. Her tone, once icy and precise, now came in waves. One moment calm, the next, snapping like glass. Should we hire a replacement? Her COO asked delicately on the 4th day. Sienna didn't answer. Just stared at her screen where Riley's old calendar still sat open. Color-coded. Efficient. Gone. Her replacement would be a disaster. There was no other Riley. No one who could read her mind. No one who would look at her, actually look at her, without fear or flattery. Just that infuriating, infallible calm. That silent resilience. That almost smile Riley wore when Sienna was at her worst. God, how had she never seen it? The office echoed. Every click of heels that wasn't Riley's felt wrong. Every coffee that wasn't made to her preference. Every document with one tiny error. She snapped more. Slept less. The investors noticed. Her board noticed. She pretended not to care. She cared. She cared too much. On day 5, she cracked. She watched the video again. That 30-second clip that had made Riley into a symbol and turned Sienna into the villain. It shouldn't have mattered. Public perception was nothing. Power was everything. But something in the way Riley had looked at her, devastated, furious, heartbroken, stuck in her lungs like glass. She hadn't just lost an assistant. She'd lost something she hadn't even realized she had. That night, alone in her penthouse, drink untouched, Sienna drafted a message. Then deleted it. Wrote another. Deleted that one too. What did you say to someone after what she'd done? How did you ask for forgiveness when you'd spent your whole life never needing it? She stared at the screen for a long time. Then, finally, typed 2 words. I'm sorry. And sent it. Just that. A white flag. A whisper. No demands. No explanations. She waited. 1 hour. 2. The reply came just after midnight. Too little too late. That should have been the end. Sienna almost let it be. But then she did something even she couldn't believe. She cleared her schedule for the first time in a decade. She went downstairs. She got in her car. And she drove. The hotel wasn't hard to find. Privacy was a fantasy when you were famous. The front desk didn't stop her. Of course not. Money was still power. But when she knocked on the door to room 1208, her heart pounded like it never had in boardrooms or negotiations or press conferences. Riley opened the door. In sweatpants. Barefaced.
Hair pulled up in a messy twist.
More beautiful than Sienna remembered. More dangerous, too. What are you doing here? Riley asked, no warmth in her voice. I didn't know what else to do. Try not showing up uninvited. I needed to see you.
Why?
To ask me to come back? To apologize in person so your conscience is clean? To say I was wrong. That made Riley pause. Sienna stepped closer. Not enough to touch. Just enough to be real. I was wrong, Riley. About the projections. About the meeting.
About you.
I was cruel. Yes. Dismissive. Yes. Arrogant. Always. That pulled the faintest flicker of a smile from Riley, but it didn't reach her eyes. You don't get to do this, she said quietly. You don't get to break me and then decide when we're okay. I don't want us to be okay. I want us to be real. I want to know you. Outside of my office. Outside of my ego. Riley studied her. And if I say no, I'll respect it. That'd be a first. I'm trying, Riley. Try harder. Then she closed the door. Not slamming. Not cruel. Just final. Sienna stood there for a moment. Then turned and walked away. The silence was heavier this time. But her heart felt lighter. Because for once, she'd told the truth. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't the end after all. The name came to her in a dream. Or maybe it came sometime between the second glass of wine and the first time in years that Riley Bennett let herself believe she could be the one in charge. Not a shadow behind a desk. Not a ghost behind a CEO. But the one people called. The one people trusted. The one people feared disappointing. Bennett and Hart. No, not that Hart. Not Sienna. Hart as in heart. As in everything Riley had always put into her work and never gotten back. The logo was sleek. Simple.
Clean.
The website went live after 48 hours of barely sleeping and too much caffeine. It was quiet at first. Then it wasn't. Because corporate America was a small world. And word got around. About the woman who had walked away from Sienna Hartwell. About the genius-level organizer behind one of the biggest companies in the country. About the assistant who'd actually been the architect. Riley's inbox filled again. This time, not with press. With clients.
CEOs.
Founders. Venture capitalists. I saw what you did, one said. Can you help us do the same? And so it began. Within 2 weeks, Riley had 5 clients, a growing team of freelancers, and her own office space being renovated downtown. She worked late, but it was different now. She chose it. She controlled it. And when she paused long enough to breathe, to step outside and feel the sun, she realized she was happy. Not content. Not numb.
Happy.
Across the city, Hartwell Industries was bleeding. Not obviously. Not publicly. But internally, things were slipping. Reports were late. Meetings rescheduled. A key merger fell through because someone forgot to prepare the transition documents Riley used to handle in her sleep. Sienna's new assistant lasted 3 days. The next one, 5. By the time the third resigned in tears, Sienna had stopped pretending the problem wasn't her. But admitting that to herself and fixing it were 2 different things. And worse, competitors had noticed. One in particular. Langford Holdings. An old rival. Ruthless. Strategic.
Petty.
They'd been trying to take a bite out of Hartwell's market share for years. Now they saw an opening. A vacuum. A weakness. So they made a move. Not on Hartwell. On Riley. It started with a message. Then a meeting. Then an offer. We want to partner with Bennett and Hart, the Langford rep said. You're the brain we've been missing. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. We'll fund the expansion. You'll have full autonomy. Think of what you could build. Riley didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. It wasn't about revenge. It was about finally being seen for what she was worth. But the real twist came 3 days later, when Sienna's board called an emergency meeting. Another merger lost. A major client pulling out. And the whispers spreading through every corridor of the company. She let Riley Bennett go. Sienna sat in the glass boardroom, unmoving, while the CFO ran through numbers that felt like bruises. Every failure traced back to one absence. Every hole exposed what Riley used to fill. And Sienna, flawless, emotionless, ice incarnate, was suddenly very, very tired. "We need to bring her back," someone said. Sienna looked up. "She doesn't want to come back." "Then fix it." "She doesn't trust me." "Then earn it." "It's too late." "It's only too late if you let it be." That night, she sat in her penthouse, surrounded by silence, and watched an interview Riley had finally agreed to. Not on national TV. A podcast. Intimate. Thoughtful. Just her voice.
Low. Calm.
Deadly honest. "I gave everything to that job," Riley said. "And I didn't even expect gratitude. Just recognition. Just fairness. When I realized I was never going to get that, not from her, I had to walk away. It was either that or disappear completely." "Do you regret it?" the host asked. A pause. Then no. "I regret not doing it sooner." Sienna closed her laptop. Her chest felt tight, not because of the company, because of that voice, because of that honesty, because Riley had always given her everything without asking for anything, and Sienna had destroyed that like it meant nothing. She stood,
Poured a drink.
didn't touch it, again, then pulled out her phone and typed a message. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted again. She was tired of words. Tired of half-truths. Tired of hiding. So she made a call instead.
Direct. Risky.
Unfiltered. And when Riley answered, her voice calm but distant, Sienna simply said, "I don't want to talk about business. I don't want to fix the company. I just want to see you." Silence. Then, why? Sienna swallowed. "Because I miss you. Because I need you to know I see you now. Really see you. And I'm sorry I didn't before." Another pause. Longer this time. Then Riley exhaled slowly. "You can meet me tomorrow. 7 a.m. at the cafe on 10th. No boardroom. No suits. Just show up." Sienna closed her eyes. "I will. Don't be late." The call ended. Sienna stood in the dark, phone still in hand, knowing that for the first time in years, maybe ever, she was about to fight for something that couldn't be bought. The cafe on 10th was small, tucked between a bookstore and a florist that always opened too early for anyone but the desperate or the brokenhearted. It had warm light, creaky wooden floors, and a smell of cinnamon that clung to the air like memory. At 6:57 a.m., Sienna Hartwell walked through its door. No assistant. No blazer. No heels that clicked like a countdown. She wore black jeans, a soft gray sweater, and an expression so tightly controlled it barely hid the tension rippling underneath. She looked like someone trying to look casual and failing. She ordered a coffee. No oat milk. Just black. She didn't touch it. The waitress gave her a second glance, the kind reserved for people who radiated pressure, and then left her alone. Sienna sat at a corner table, spine straight, eyes on the door, heartbeat steady like it was trying to fool her into believing she wasn't waiting for the only woman who'd ever made her feel unprepared. At exactly 7:02, Riley walked in, and the world tilted. She was wearing dark slacks, a navy blouse, no makeup except maybe a trace of color on her lips. Her hair was down.
Soft.
Effortless. And her presence, God, it filled the room like gravity. Sienna stood before she could stop herself. Riley didn't smile, didn't scowl, just nodded once and took the seat across from her like it was an interview, and Sienna had better come prepared. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them was thick, not hostile, just loaded. Finally, Riley broke the silence. "You're late." Sienna blinked. "I'm 3 minutes early. I meant 2 years late." The line landed like a slap. Sienna absorbed it. "You're right. Don't agree so easily." It's not a game. It never was. It always was to you. Sienna looked down at her coffee, still untouched. I deserved that. You deserve worse. But I don't have the energy to hate you, Sienna. Her name, in Riley's voice, was both a knife and a wound. I didn't come here for drama. I came because you asked.
So talk.
Sienna studied her. You're different. I'm not. I just stopped shrinking to fit into spaces that weren't built for me. You were never small.
No.
But you treated me like I was. Like I was lucky to breathe the same air. I was wrong. And now I know that losing you was the moment I lost control. Of the company. Of myself. Of everything. Riley crossed her arms. I'm not your fix. I'm not your compass. You were my anchor. And you cut me loose. Sienna leaned forward. I didn't come here to ask you back. I came here to ask if we could start over. Riley laughed.
Quiet.
Sharp. You don't start over with someone you broke. You start over with someone new. I don't want someone new.
Why?
Because I'm successful now. Because I'm finally visible to you.
Because I see you now.
Not just your skills.
You.
Your voice. Your fire. Your silence. The way you made things better by never asking for credit. The way you watched me destroy people with words and still offered kindness when I didn't deserve it. Riley looked away. Her jaw clenched. You don't get to name those things now. Not when you ignored them for 3 years. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. Then what are you asking for? A chance to be something different with you. Not your boss. Not your fixer. Just someone who cares. You didn't care before. I did. I just didn't know how to show it. You're a grown woman, Sienna. That's not an excuse.
No.
But it's the truth. The silence stretched. Long, painful. Then Riley stood. This is not a movie. You don't get to flip a switch and become someone new because you feel something now. People like me, we live in the consequences. You just delegate them. Then let me stay in the consequences. Riley paused. What does that mean? It means I'm not asking for your love. I'm asking for a seat at the table. In your life. As a friend. A supporter. As whatever you'll allow. And I'll stay there until you tell me to leave. Riley looked at her. Really looked. And for a second, the fire in her eyes dimmed. You're persistent.
You taught me that.
I never taught you anything. Then I learned it by watching you survive me. Another silence. This one, gentler. Riley exhaled. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. I know. You check my schedule? I still follow you on LinkedIn. That earned a real smile.
Small. Brief.
Gone in a second. Don't contact me again, Riley said, but her voice had softened. If I want to talk, I'll find you. Okay. And don't show up at my office. I won't. Good. She walked away.
Just like that.
Sienna didn't follow.
Just sat there.
Still. Watching the door close behind the woman who no longer fit into her world and had no interest in being part of it again. But for the first time, Sienna didn't feel defeated. She felt something closer to hope. Because Riley had stayed. For a coffee. For 10 minutes. And that was more time than Sienna had ever given anyone. Maybe that meant something. Maybe not. But she would wait. As long as it took. The contract came wrapped in silk and silence, a multi-million-dollar deal from a firm so polished, so high-tier, Riley had to read the proposal 3 times before she believed it was real. Oren Strategic. A juggernaut. Their name had clout. Their CEO, Naomi Oren, had once been called a colder Sienna Hartwell, but with better shoes. The irony wasn't lost on Riley. The offer was flattering. Oversized. Everything Bennett and Hart needed to break into the next echelon of clients. And Naomi herself? She was poised, sleek, and too charming to trust. Their first meeting happened over dinner at a rooftop restaurant that overlooked the city, like a queen surveying her territory. Naomi wore confidence like perfume, intoxicating, expensive, and impossible to ignore. She didn't bother with small talk. We've watched your work. Your launch was flawless. You have vision, Bennett. You're not just a service. You're a movement. And I want in. Riley arched a brow. Why now? Because I like investing in things right before they explode. And because anyone who can walk away from Sienna Hartwell and still stand tall is someone I want on my side. The mention of Sienna tightened something in Riley's chest, but she didn't let it show. This isn't about Sienna. It always is. Whether you like it or not, you've become the woman who challenged the machine and built her own empire from the rubble.
People love that story.
I love that story. Riley sipped her drink. Stories are just that. This is business. Naomi smiled. Then let's talk terms. They did. For hours. Naomi was smart. Strategic. Her vision aligned with Riley's in sharp, unexpected ways. And when Riley left that rooftop, contract draft in hand, she couldn't deny it. This could be the game changer. Back in her office, her team was buzzing. The Oren deal would triple their exposure, cement their status, make them untouchable. Everyone was thrilled. Everyone except Riley. Because deep down, under the rush of success, something felt off. Naomi didn't just want a partnership. She wanted an ally in a war Riley hadn't agreed to fight. That night, Riley sat at her desk, staring at the contract. Her phone buzzed. A message from Naomi. Looking forward to making history together. Dinner again next week. And then another almost as an afterthought. By the way, I hear Sienna's board is panicking. I wonder what they'd do if they thought you were working with me. There it was. The angle. The leverage. Naomi didn't want Riley. She wanted what Riley represented. A dagger aimed at Sienna Hartwell's legacy. Riley locked her phone and closed her laptop. This deal could build her. Or it could reduce her to someone else's weapon. The next morning, she met with her legal advisor, reviewed every clause, every detail. Everything was perfect on paper. But contracts weren't made of paper. They were made of power. And this one felt like a leash. Meanwhile, at Hartwell Industries, Sienna was unraveling in silence. Publicly, she was fine. Privately, she knew the storm was coming. Rumors were flying. That Riley had partnered with Naomi. That Riley was being used to destabilize the company from the outside. That the very person Sienna had pushed away was now holding the blade that could gut her from a distance. Her CFO brought it up in a meeting. If this deal goes through, we lose 3 regional accounts. They're already leaning toward Oren. Sienna said nothing. You have to talk to her. She doesn't want to talk to me. Then find another way. Or this company won't survive another quarter. That night, Sienna didn't drink. She didn't run. She wrote a letter. By hand. 1 page. No branding. Just ink on paper. She didn't try to defend herself. She didn't beg. She simply said, if you sign that contract, I'll understand. You owe me nothing. But if you still believe in the version of yourself that once saved me from myself, don't let anyone use you to finish what I started to ruin. She had it delivered by hand. No assistant. No courier. Just one of her oldest guards. A man who knew Riley's name. Knew what she meant. Riley received it the next morning. She read it once.
Twice.
And then again. It wasn't an apology. It was something stranger. Something raw. Something honest.
She didn't respond.
But she didn't sign the contract either. At least, not yet. Days passed. Naomi grew pushy. Is it Sienna? Is that why you're hesitating? Riley didn't answer. She didn't owe her that. But she owed herself a decision that wouldn't make her hate her reflection. Late one night, alone in her apartment, Riley looked at the unsigned contract on her table, at the chaos it could unleash, and made a choice. She wouldn't be anyone's revenge. Not Naomi's. Not her own. The next morning, she walked into her office, called her team, and said, we're declining the Oren contract.
Gasps.
Confusion. Questions. She answered none of them. Only said, we don't grow by stepping on the ruins of others. We grow by building something no one's ever seen before. Meanwhile, in a corner office with too much glass and not enough light, Sienna got a message. From a junior executive. 2 words, she declined. Sienna closed her eyes and exhaled. For the first time in weeks, she let herself feel something that wasn't guilt or fear. It was small, but it was hope. The message came on a Thursday morning, just as Riley was finishing a call with one of her new international clients. A joint proposal had landed unexpectedly, a pitch for a collaborative summit between emerging consulting firms and legacy corporations, meant to foster innovation across sectors. The organizers were clear. They wanted Bennett and Hart. And they also wanted Hartwell Industries. Riley's first instinct was to say no. But the offer came with backing from 3 major investors, a press package already in motion, and a guest list filled with names too powerful to ignore. She didn't want the headline. Ex-assistant and ex-employer face off on the same stage. She didn't want proximity. She didn't want temptation. But she wanted respect. And more than that, she wanted proof that she could share space with Sienna Hartwell and not burn alive.
She said yes.
The summit was in Chicago. 1 weekend, 3 panels, 2 presentations, 1 shared cocktail hour. Riley arrived first. Her suite overlooked the river, floor-to-ceiling windows wrapping the skyline in glass. She wore black slacks, a cream blouse, and the quiet confidence of a woman who built her own empire with bare hands and invisible scars. Her panel was scheduled for the first afternoon. She spoke with clarity, precision, humor. The crowd was enthralled. She didn't mention Hartwell Industries. She didn't have to. Her name said enough. Afterward, she mingled briefly, answered questions, posed for a photo, and retreated to the edge of the room, where the air was less suffocating. That was when she saw her. Sienna. Framed in the wide arch of the ballroom door, like a shadow the light refused to swallow. She wore navy. Elegant, severe, timeless. Her hair pulled back, a thin diamond line at her wrist, and eyes that found Riley across the crowd without hesitation. They stared at each other for a beat too long. Then Sienna moved. Not toward her. Not away. Just into the space. As if testing gravity. Riley turned before their eyes could say more than her mouth was ready to. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in her hotel bed staring at the ceiling, heart racing with no rhythm, pulse chasing something she refused to name. The next day was Sienna's panel. Riley didn't plan to attend, but her feet didn't agree. She slipped into the back 5 minutes after it started and stood by the wall. Sienna spoke like thunder in velvet. Controlled. Devastating. Visionary. And then she said it, midway through a point about company culture and legacy, her tone shifted. When we talk about loyalty, Sienna said, we tend to value silence and obedience. But the most loyal people I've ever known were the ones who challenged me when I least wanted to be challenged. The ones who left not out of disloyalty but because they refused to let me destroy the parts of them I didn't understand. And I was wrong to ever let them walk away. A pause. The audience didn't know what it meant. But Riley did. Her breath hitched. After the panel, Riley walked the long way out of the conference hall, hoping the distance would cool the ache in her chest. But Sienna was waiting near the elevators. Alone. No entourage. No mask. Just her. You came, Sienna said. Riley didn't deny it. You spoke well. You looked like you wanted to interrupt. I did. Why didn't you? Because it wasn't my place. Sienna stepped closer. Not touching. Not crowding. Just there. Can I walk with you? Is this a game? No, then yes. For 1 block. They walked in silence. The wind was soft. The city loud. Sienna glanced at her. I didn't expect you to come. I didn't expect to want to. And yet. They stopped outside Riley's hotel. I should go, Riley said, voice low. I know. But she didn't move. And neither did Sienna. Something hung between them. Unspoken.
Lit.
Do you ever think about what would have happened if I had seen you sooner? Sienna asked. Riley laughed, bitter and quiet. We'd have destroyed each other. You were too cruel. I was too forgiving. We were poison in those walls. And now we're still poison. But at least we know it. You make me want to be better, Sienna whispered. Riley's breath caught. That's not my job.
No.
But it's still the truth. And then, because the air was too heavy and her heart was too loud, Riley reached up and brushed a hair off Sienna's cheek. Barely a touch. A tremble. I shouldn't want this, she said. I shouldn't ask you to. But we do. Do you feel it too? Every time you walk into a room. A silence bloomed.
Not awkward.
Just full. Then Sienna leaned in, slow, hesitant, giving Riley time to say no. Riley didn't. Their lips met like a promise neither of them trusted yet, soft, searching, trembling. Not hungry. Not desperate. Just real. When they pulled back, Riley's voice was barely a breath. This doesn't fix anything. I know. You still have work to do. I know. But this is a start. Sienna nodded, eyes fierce and fragile. Let me earn the rest. Riley looked at her, really looked and nodded once. One block at a time. And they stood there, on a sidewalk lit by city lights and 1,000 broken moments stitched together by something terrifying and beautiful, hope. Riley told herself it was just a kiss. A moment. A lapse in judgment fueled by too much memory and too little distance. It didn't mean anything. She told herself that every morning after the summit, and every night when she lay in bed with the ghost of Sienna's mouth still lingering on hers. She threw herself into work, meetings, contracts, presentations. She expanded her team, launched a new client interface, accepted 2 speaking invitations. She was thriving, on paper, but the rhythm of her days had changed. There was a crack in her focus, a breath that hitched every time her phone buzzed, because it might be her, and sometimes it was texts, short, careful. No pressure. Just presence. I saw your piece in the journal. Brilliant. There's a new Italian place opening on 9th. Made me think of you. You looked unstoppable today. Riley didn't always answer, but she never blocked her. And some nights, when the world quieted, she'd open their thread and read the messages like they were chapters of a story she didn't know if she was brave enough to finish. Sienna, for her part, didn't push. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. Not chasing. Not controlling. Not calling at midnight demanding clarity. She'd spent her whole life getting what she wanted with pressure, with precision, with power. But Riley didn't respond to that. Riley responded to truth. So she gave it. In pieces. In restraint. In patience. Until one Friday afternoon, Riley called her. No text. No warning. Just a single ring before Sienna picked up, her voice a soft exhale. Hi. Hi. Silence. And then, there's a gallery opening tonight. I was going to go with a friend, but she bailed. You want to come? Sienna blinked, caught off guard by the normalcy of it. Are you asking me on a date? I'm asking if you want to stand in a room full of overpriced art and pretend we don't have 3 years of emotional trauma between us. Tempting. Take it or leave it. I'll take it. The gallery was downtown. Modern. Minimalist. Stark walls and dramatic lighting and champagne that tasted like ambition. Riley wore a deep green dress that made Sienna forget her own name. Sienna wore black, like always, but with softer edges, no shoulder pads, no sharp heels, just elegance and quiet reverence for the woman beside her. They walked through the space slowly, talking about nothing. Art. Lighting, texture, but beneath every word was tension. Not hostile, just dense, heavy with everything unsaid. At one point, Riley stopped in front of a painting. Abstract.
Chaotic.
Red streaks over pale canvas. What do you see? She asked. Sienna stepped beside her.
Looked.
Anger. I see restraint. You would. What does that mean? It means you see everything through a lens of control. Even rage. Maybe. Or maybe I've just learned not to let emotion destroy me. Riley turned to her. Is that what I did to you?
No.
You made me feel. That's what scared me. Still. Less than before. The air between them pulsed. People moved around them, laughing, sipping, posing. But they stood still, locked in some invisible orbit. Walk me to my car? Riley asked. Always. They left through a side door. The night was warm, quiet. Her car was parked just down the street. They didn't speak until they reached it. Then Riley turned. This is the part where I usually say goodnight and drive away. Do you want to? Riley's mouth parted.
Closed.
I don't know. Can I ask you something? You can ask. What do I need to do to prove I'm not the woman I was? Riley hesitated. You can't.
Not all at once.
Not with words. With time. With consistency. With not trying to win. And what if I want to win you? Then stop trying. And just be someone worth staying for. Sienna nodded slowly. Can I kiss you again? Riley's breath hitched. If you do, I might not stop at this time. I'm hoping you won't. And then they were kissing. In the quiet hum of the city night, beneath the soft glare of a street lamp, they kissed like the world was just beginning. No fireworks. No witnesses. Just mouths remembering. Hands relearning. Bodies leaning in instead of away. Riley broke it first, barely pulling back, her forehead resting against Sienna's. We're not fixed. No, this could fall apart. It probably will. But for tonight, I'm yours, Sienna whispered. Riley nodded. Mine. And for the first time in a long time, they didn't run. Didn't retreat.
Didn't explain.
They just stood there.
Together.
In the messy, complicated space between past and future. And let something bloom. The weekend after the kiss was quiet. Not silent. Not cold. Just calm in a way Riley wasn't used to. There were no grand gestures. No floods of messages. Just two women walking along the edge of something real, neither of them sure whether to dive or wait for the other to jump first. On Sunday, Sienna sent her a single text. Thinking of you. No pressure. Just that. And Riley stared at it for a long time before replying. I'm thinking of you too. It wasn't a declaration, but it was something. And in a world where control had always been Sienna's shield, something was revolutionary. Monday hit hard. Riley had back-to-back meetings, 2 pitches to finalize, and a team member who needed firm but kind redirection after messing up a client presentation. She handled it all with the kind of efficiency that had made her invaluable at Hartwell Industries. But now, she was doing it for herself. On her own terms. And still, Sienna lingered in her mind like a heartbeat she couldn't ignore. It was only when she sat down with her operations director that she heard the news. Hartwell Industries is all over the wires, Marla said, scrolling through her tablet. Something about a whistleblower. Internal data breach. It's bad. Riley's spine stiffened. How bad? Leaked client files. A few NDAs. The board hasn't commented, but people are speculating. Investors are already reacting. Riley nodded, trying to focus. But all she could hear was that voice in her head, low, calm, brilliant even when cold. Sienna. She grabbed her phone. Hesitated. She didn't want to overstep. But she couldn't ignore it. Finally, she sent a message. Heard about the breach. If you need anything, advice, structure support, whatever, I'm here. 10 minutes later, the reply came. I could use you, but not professionally. Just, can I see you tonight? Riley stared at the screen, then typed. 8 p.m. My place. Bring dinner. I'm not cooking. Noted. That night, Sienna arrived in jeans and a soft sweater, holding a brown paper bag that smelled like overpriced Thai food and emotional damage. Her hair was down. No makeup. She looked exhausted. And beautiful. And real. Riley let her in without a word. They sat on the couch, eating straight from the containers, not bothering with plates. How bad is it? Riley asked. Sienna didn't lie. Worse than it looks. Someone inside leaked confidential contracts. 3 major partners are considering pulling out. And the board is waiting for me to clean it up with minimal PR fallout. Can you trace it? I already did. It was Philip, my interim CTO. The one you flagged months ago. Riley blinked. You didn't fire him? You said to. I didn't listen. And now?
He's gone.
But the damage is done. Silence. Then Riley looked at her. Why didn't you listen to me? Sienna set her food down. Because back then, I thought being right was more important than being smart. And I didn't trust that you were both. And now I know you always were. Riley exhaled slowly. What are you going to do? Fight. Alone? Sienna met her eyes. Unless you'll stand beside me. Riley shook her head, not in rejection, just disbelief. You still don't get it. I'm not your shield, Sienna. I'm not your quiet fixer behind the curtain. I'm not going to disappear again so your empire looks perfect. I don't want you to disappear. Then stop trying to frame this as me saving you. I don't need saving. Then why are you here? Because I didn't know who else to turn to. Because I trust you. Because when things fall apart, you're the only person who ever made me feel like I could survive it. The air between them thickened. Tension, anger,
Desire.
old wounds and new wants colliding. You hurt me, Riley said, voice low. You made me doubt myself. You made me small in a world I helped you build. Sienna's voice cracked. I know. You took credit for my ideas. You used my silence as a weapon. I know. And still, I'm here. Why do you think that is? Because you still feel it. Even now. Feel what? Us. Riley didn't move.
Didn't speak.
Just let the words settle. Then, quietly. And if I do, then let me try. Let me show you what it's like to be chosen, not used. Let me love you the way I should have from the start. Riley's breath hitched. Love. I don't know what else to call it. This is a terrible time. It's the only time I've ever been honest. And just like that, the walls cracked. Not crumbled, but cracked wide enough for light to slip through. Riley leaned forward, her forehead resting against Sienna's. I'm scared of you. I'm scared of me too. We're not ready. Maybe not. But I want to try. And in the quiet of a small apartment filled with half-eaten noodles and unfinished conversations, they kissed again. Slower this time.
Deeper.
A confession. A question. A promise made in the language of mouths and hands and hearts too tired to pretend anymore.
They didn't sleep together that night.
They lay curled on the couch, tangled under a blanket, just holding each other. And for the first time, it didn't feel like the aftermath of something dangerous. It felt like the beginning of something worth surviving. It started with a single file. Sienna forwarded it to Riley with no subject line and only one sentence in the body. Can you take a look? Riley opened it after 2 hours, more out of curiosity than obligation.
A mess.
A disaster of misaligned strategies and poorly tracked revenue streams. She replied with a full analysis before midnight. Bullet points. Color-coded breakdowns. A solution. 2 hours later, Sienna responded. That's better than what my entire executive team gave me in 3 days. Riley didn't reply. She didn't need to. The next day, 3 more files arrived. Then a call. Then an invitation to sit in on a confidential meeting as an outside consultant. Riley agreed, but under conditions. She wouldn't answer to the board. She wouldn't sign a long-term contract. She would have full autonomy to say no, to walk away at any time. Sienna agreed to everything without blinking. And just like that, they were back in each other's orbit. But this time it was different. Riley walked into the Hartwell Industries headquarters not as an assistant, not as someone invisible. She walked in as a force. Independent. Self-owned. And everyone noticed. Especially Sienna. Their first strategy session was tense. Not because of conflict, but because of what wasn't being said. Riley spread her notes across the table, her voice calm and sharp. If you want to repair investor trust, you need to show stability. That means trimming dead weight, reorganizing your executive tiers, naming someone publicly to oversee compliance.
You.
Me? You built this. You own the fall and the fix. Sienna didn't flinch. What else? Stop hiding. Release a statement. Not sanitized. Human. That's not my brand. Your brand is falling apart. Time to evolve. Sienna smiled, slow and dangerous. You always did tell me the truth, no matter how much it stung. And you always hated me for it. I hated how much I needed you. Silence. Hot.
Close.
Unresolved. Let's stick to the agenda, Riley said, flipping the page. But her voice had softened. That night, Sienna sent another text. Just 2 words. Thank you. Riley didn't answer. She was already thinking about the next day, about working together again, about what it meant to sit at the same table without flinching. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a rhythm that was dangerously familiar and entirely new. Riley came to the office 3 times a week, always as a consultant, always in control. She carried herself differently now, shoulders back, chin high, eyes level with everyone. Sienna watched her like someone watching a flame, not afraid, but aware that if she leaned too close, she'd get burned. Still, she leaned. Every meeting, every hallway interaction, every late-night email, they added up. Until one night, Sienna lingered at Riley's office door after a final debrief. You want to get a drink? She asked, voice carefully casual. Riley looked up. Is this professional? No, then maybe. They went to a quiet bar 2 blocks away. Dark wood. Low music. Just enough distance from the world. They sat in a booth, drinks untouched for the first 10 minutes. I've been thinking, Sienna said, fingers tracing the rim of her glass, about what it would have looked like if I'd promoted you instead of controlling you. Riley's gaze didn't waver. You weren't ready to share power. I'm trying to be now. Trying isn't enough. Then what is? Doing it. Every day. Even when it's inconvenient. I want you beside me. Professionally?
Yes.
And don't. Why? Because I don't know if I'll survive loving you and being under you again, in any capacity. Sienna's jaw tensed. I wouldn't ask you to sacrifice your identity. Not anymore. But the question is, can we build something where I don't have to shrink? That's the only thing I want now. You. Full size. Full fire. No compromise. Riley looked away, heart pounding. Then prove it.
How?
Give me space to lead. Not just advise. Let me step in as an equal on the restructure. The board will follow your lead, like always. If you let me stand beside you publicly, then I'll believe you're serious. Sienna nodded. Done. That easy. Nothing about you has ever been easy, but this decision is. They left the bar separately. No kiss. No touch. Just a long look that said soon. Days passed. Riley's role became more visible. She stepped into meetings with authority, made calls that shifted investor opinion, spoke in Sienna's name when needed. The board bristled, then submitted. Because results were undeniable. Because Riley's name now meant something on its own. One afternoon, after presenting a new transparency protocol, Sienna caught Riley by the elevators. You were incredible today. I know. Is it wrong that I find that confidence unbearably attractive?
Yes.
But say it again. You're incredible. Riley leaned in, close, but not touching. Don't ruin this. Define this. This fragile thing we're building. Respect. Balance. Trust. And the other thing? What other thing? The part where I want to pin you against this wall and undo everything you're wearing. Riley smirked. That can wait. The board still needs to vote on the transition plan. So business before pleasure?
No.
Business during restraint. That's even worse. Then suffer a little longer. And she walked away, heels clicking like punctuation on a challenge. Sienna didn't follow. Just smiled to herself. Because for the first time in years, she was falling in love. And for the first time ever, she was falling the right way forward, not down. The plan was ambitious. A full-scale corporate restructuring initiative that would cut costs, modernize outdated systems, and, if executed flawlessly, restore investor confidence in Hartwell Industries. Riley had drafted the blueprint, presented it, owned it, and now she was about to lead it.
Alone.
Sienna didn't hesitate when she made the call. The board wants to oversee the process, she told Riley in her office late one evening. But I told them no. I told them you'd handle it. And that I trust you completely. Riley looked up from her laptop, brow raised. You told the board that? I did. And they agreed? They didn't have a choice. Riley stared at her. You really are trying. Trying? You just handed me the most critical project in your company. No, Sienna said softly. I handed it to the woman I believe in most. Riley swallowed. She didn't smile, didn't joke. She simply nodded, and in that quiet, charged silence, a wall that had long stood between them cracked. The next 2 weeks were chaos. Controlled, but chaos nonetheless. Riley led the restructure with razor-sharp precision. She worked long hours, coordinating departments, managing resistance, soothing egos, and enforcing a clarity Hartwell hadn't seen in years. She demanded accountability. And she got it, not because of fear, but because of respect. Still, she wasn't invincible. The board pushed back, especially the old guard, the ones who still viewed her as the assistant who brought coffee and color-coded agendas. She's too young, one muttered in a closed meeting. Too untested, said another. Too emotional, added a third. Sienna didn't raise her voice. Didn't even stand. She simply leaned forward, looked each man in the eye, and said, She's the reason this company is still breathing. Say one more thing that underestimates her, and I'll have your resignation on my desk by morning. Silence. And then compliance. Sienna left the meeting early, headed straight to Riley's temporary office, 2 floors down. Riley was bent over a cluster of documents, lips pursed, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled to her elbows. Sienna knocked once and walked in without waiting. They don't deserve you, she said. Riley didn't look up. Then make them. I'm trying. Try harder. Sienna stepped closer. You're tired. So are you. Let me take you out. I have 3 departments still resisting the implementation schedule, a vendor threatening to walk, and a finance director who keeps calling me Miss Bennett like I don't run this floor. Then let me come to you. Riley finally looked up. Her eyes were fire. What does that mean? Dinner. My place. Tonight. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to lead. You can just exist. Riley hesitated. I don't know how to exist with you without losing control. Sienna's voice dropped. Then lose it. That night, Riley arrived at Sienna's penthouse just before 9 p.m. Her hair was still pinned, blazer still on, phone still buzzing. But when Sienna opened the door, she reached out, took Riley's phone, and set it aside. Just tonight, she said. Be mine. Not my consultant. Not my savior. Just mine. Riley stepped inside. The apartment smelled like wine and rosemary. There were 2 plates on the dining table, a bottle of red already uncorked, and Sienna, barefoot, hair loose, softer than Riley had ever seen her. They ate in silence for a while. Not awkward. Just full of things unsaid. Then Sienna leaned back, wineglass in hand. Do you remember your first week at Hartwell? Riley smirked. You fired someone in front of me for misspelling reconciliation in a slide deck. He'd done it 3 times. I thought you were a monster. And now I know you're just terrified of being seen. Sienna's jaw clenched. I spent my entire life becoming the kind of woman no one could destroy. And then you walked in and did it without even trying. Riley stood, walked around the table. Sienna looked up, breath catching as Riley stepped between her knees. I didn't destroy you, she whispered. I made you feel something. I still do. Then show me. Sienna stood, slowly, eyes never leaving Riley's. Are you sure? I'm tired of pretending I don't want you. Even after everything I did? Especially after watching you try to be better. And then they kissed. No more restraint. No more distance. This was not the soft kiss of a question. This was the kiss of an answer. Riley pulled Sienna's sweater off. Sienna unbuttoned Riley's shirt with shaking fingers. They moved through the apartment like it was familiar, even though they'd never touched like this before. On the couch. Against the wall. Finally, the bedroom. Clothes scattered. Breaths gasping. Hands learning. Bodies aligning like they'd done this in 100 lives before. It wasn't just sex. It was a reckoning. A reclamation. A burning down. And a building up. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, sweat cooling, hearts still racing. Sienna pressed a kiss to Riley's shoulder. Stay. Riley hesitated. This doesn't mean I'm yours.
No.
But it means I have a chance to be. Riley turned to face her. If you hurt me again, there won't be a third chance. I know. And this time, I won't love you quietly. Then I'll listen louder. And in the darkness, wrapped around each other, they let themselves hope. Not for a perfect ending, but for a future neither of them had dared to imagine. The week following their night together passed like a breath held too long. Sienna and Riley didn't talk about it, not directly. They were professionals. They had a job to do. The restructure was entering its final phase, and Riley was overseeing implementation across 6 departments with military precision. Every system touched bore her fingerprints. Every executive report echoed her methodology. She was everywhere. And still, every time Sienna entered a room, her eyes sought Riley's. And Riley's found hers. They moved around each other like magnets, no longer resisting. The world noticed. Whispers started. In the hallways. In boardrooms. Riley heard them. Sienna ignored them. Because what they were building, whatever name it carried, felt real. It felt earned. And neither of them wanted to give it up. But Hartwell Industries wasn't just a company. It was a battlefield. And not everyone wanted Sienna, or Riley, to win. It began with an anonymous email, forwarded to the entire board, titled only, Hartwell's Hidden History. Attached was a zip file, containing internal memos, personal emails, and, most damningly, a confidential agreement from 7 years ago, one that implicated Sienna in a quiet acquisition of a failing rival company led by a former mentor, executed without full board approval. Technically legal, ethically gray, and very, very scandalous. Riley was in a meeting with mid-level managers when Marla, her operations lead, burst in. "We got a problem," she whispered. "Big one." Riley read the file on Marla's tablet, then read it again. Her blood went cold. She knew about the acquisition. She had seen glimpses of it in old archives during her years at Hartwell. But this was weaponized. And someone wanted Sienna destroyed. By 3 p.m., the media had picked it up. By 4 p.m., the board had called an emergency session. By 5 p.m., Sienna was alone in her office, staring at the skyline with a glass of bourbon untouched in her hand. Riley entered without knocking. "You knew this would come out someday." Sienna didn't turn. "I thought I had more time." "You always do. Until you don't." Sienna finally looked at her. "Are you here to walk away?" "No, to save me? Not this time." "Then why?" "Because this is what love looks like when it's real. I'm here to face it with you." Sienna's jaw trembled. "Just slightly. I made a mistake. You made a choice. And now you deal with the consequences." "They want my resignation." "Then don't give it to them. They'll vote. I'll lose. Then fight." "I've fought my whole life." "Then fight smarter." Silence stretched, thick with the weight of the moment. Riley stepped closer. "You've changed. But this company still thinks you're the woman who buried her enemies. They're waiting to be proven right."
Don't give them that.
"And if I lose you in the process?" Riley's voice was steady. "You won't. But you might lose me if you run." And that was the line Sienna couldn't cross. At the emergency board meeting, she walked in with her head held high. The room buzzed with tension. Some members looked triumphant. Others anxious. No one spoke until she did. "The documents leaked today are real," she said. "I made a call that was legally sound but lacked transparency. I won't defend it. But I will remind you what came of it. A 10% increase in company equity. A rescue of over 100 jobs. And the foundation for the division we're now depending on to stay solvent. If my mistake requires punishment, so be it. But I will not be sacrificed for the sake of someone else's ambition. Vote if you must. But know this, I am not the same woman I was 7 years ago. And I will not apologize for growing." Murmurs. One voice spoke, Gregory Lang, the board's eldest member. And if we ask for your resignation? Sienna didn't flinch. You'll have it, but I'll walk out with my head high. And so will every investor who still believes in results over revenge. The vote came, and it was close. 5-4. Sienna stayed.
Barely.
When she returned to her office, Riley was waiting. You held your ground. I bled on it. That's what makes it real. Sienna moved to her. You were right. Again. I usually am. And you stayed.
I will.
As long as you don't lie to me. Never again. Then we're okay. But the storm wasn't over. The leak had done damage. Stock prices dipped. Analysts buzzed. Clients asked questions. And through it all, Sienna and Riley worked side by side, not as boss and assistant, not even as lovers, as partners, equals. And every night, when the offices emptied and the noise died down, Sienna would find Riley. In the break room, in the elevator, in the silence of her office, and touch her hand. Just once. A silent question. And every night, Riley let her. A silent answer. Until one evening, as the sun fell low and the city shimmered with headlights, Riley turned to her and said, "Let's go home." Yours or mine?
Ours.
If you still want that. Sienna didn't answer. She just kissed her.
Fierce. Certain.
No longer asking permission. No longer hiding. The past was ugly. But what they were building now, this, was something worth surviving for. The storm didn't pass. It shifted. Took a new form. Less scandal, more strategy. After the board vote, after the media noise softened into background chatter, a new threat emerged, quiet, polished, and wrapped in smiles. It came in the form of an offer. A merger. Not a hostile takeover, not exactly. Just a strategic consolidation from a legacy firm named Covington Solutions, a conglomerate known for swallowing struggling companies whole and calling it synergy. The board didn't hesitate. It's a lifeline, Lang said in a closed-door session. They'll stabilize our numbers. Expand our reach. The market will react favorably. Riley, seated beside Sienna, didn't blink. And in exchange? Lang cleared his throat. They want a controlling interest. 2/3 of our board. Approval power on all C-level appointments. So, they want the company. They want to save it. By gutting everything that made it Hartwell in the first place? By making sure it survives. Riley turned to Sienna. You can't agree to this. Sienna's jaw was tight. Her fingers steepled in front of her lips. I need time to consider. Time? Riley's voice was low, calm. Dangerous. This isn't a discussion. It's surrender. It's strategy. It's erasure. The room fell silent. Lang shifted. The vote will be held in 5 days. After the meeting, Sienna didn't speak as they walked to her office. Riley followed, furious but quiet. When the door shut, Sienna turned. Don't do that. Do what? Challenge me in front of them. Undermine me. I'm not undermining you. I'm reminding you who you are. Who I am is someone responsible for 500 employees. For their salaries, their families, their futures. And who I see is a woman who rebuilt her power from ashes, who learned how to lead without cruelty, who's still afraid to stand alone when it counts. That cut deep. Sienna looked away. You think I'm weak?
No.
I think you're scared. And I think you're allowed to be. But I also think you don't get to hide behind strategy when your soul is on the line. This isn't about my soul. It's always been about your soul. Silence fell again. But it wasn't angry anymore. It was intimate. Sienna sat on the edge of her desk. What would you do? Reject the offer. Call in favors. Pivot hard. Get creative. And if we fail? Then we fail on your terms, not theirs. Sienna looked at her. I need you to say it. Say what? That you believe in me. Riley stepped forward, took her hand. I believe in you more than anyone ever has. But you have to believe in yourself loud enough to drown out their fear. Sienna's eyes burned. She leaned forward, kissed Riley's knuckles. Stay with me? Always. The next few days were war. Riley and Sienna locked themselves in strategy sessions, building a counteroffer, drafting a public statement, lining up alternate investors who still had faith in the Hartwell name. And through it all, something changed between them. Their love stopped being a secret. It happened in whispers and glances, in the way Sienna touched Riley's back as they passed in the hallway, in the way Riley handed her coffee with 2 creams, no sugar, without being asked. The office noticed. The world noticed. A reporter slipped the headline into a business blog on Thursday afternoon. Rumored romance in the C-suite? Hartwell CEO and ex-assistant turned consultant may be more than just strategic partners. Riley read it at her desk, blinked once, then walked straight into Sienna's office. "Well," she said. "That didn't take long." Sienna turned her screen to show the same article. "Do we deny it?" "No. Do we confirm it?" Riley shrugged. "We keep building something real. Let them talk." "They will." "Then let them be right." Sienna stood, walked over, touched Riley's cheek. "You terrify me." "Likewise. But I'd rather fall with you than rise alone." That night, they went home together. No hiding. No hesitation. Sienna cooked. Riley teased her about it. They made love slow, hands memorizing what hearts already knew. The next morning, they presented their counterproposal to the board. A leaner path. A new investor ready to infuse capital. A plan that required risk, but promised integrity. Lang was the last to speak. "And if we decline your offer?" Sienna didn't pause. "Then I resign." "And so does she." Riley didn't flinch. Neither did the board. The vote was 6-3. The Hartwell name stayed in Sienna's hands. After the meeting in the elevator, Sienna looked at Riley. "You just bet your whole career on me." "I bet on us." "What if we're wrong?" Riley smiled. "Then at least we lose together." The headlines didn't stop. The counteroffer was a triumph, but the world saw more than just a business decision. They saw power. They saw rebellion. They saw 2 women, once separated by hierarchy, now united by strategy and something far more intimate, refusing to play by the rules. And some people didn't like it. Most notably, Vivian Black, former Hartwell board member, corporate shark, and the last person Sienna ever expected to see again. She had left 5 years ago in the fallout of a hostile disagreement. One Sienna had won, barely. Vivian had disappeared into the shadows of consulting work and private equity. But power, like flame, always licked its way back to oxygen. And Vivian had returned. She showed up unannounced to a fundraising gala for urban innovation. One Hartwell was sponsoring, one Sienna and Riley were attending together. She wore a red gown and a sharper smile. She found them before dessert. "Sienna," she purred. "You're glowing. Love looks good on you." Riley straightened, but didn't speak. Sienna smiled, thin and cold. "Vivian, I didn't know rats were allowed back inside."
"Oh, darling."
"Don't flatter yourself. I'm not here for you. I'm here for your crown." Riley spoke then. "You'll have to pry it from her cold, living hands." Vivian laughed. "You must be the infamous Riley. I've heard so much. Fierce, loyal, brilliant, but also reckless." Her eyes gleamed. "It's a shame, really. Someone like you, tied to someone like her. You could have been a legend on your own." Riley didn't rise to it. "Funny. That's exactly what I am." Vivian leaned closer, voice dropping. "Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. This empire of hers, it was always built on sand." She walked away like she owned the night. Sienna turned to Riley. "She's bluffing." "Maybe. But I've worked in your archives. She's not the only one who knows where your ghosts are buried." Then we start digging first. Over the next week, Riley doubled down on transparency. She launched a voluntary audit of Hartwell's last decade of financial decisions, created a digital archive of press releases, and implemented a whistleblower policy Sienna had always resisted, until now. Meanwhile, whispers spread. A suspicious leak. A stalled client contract. A canceled partnership. Riley was called into meetings alone. "What's your influence over the CEO?" one investor asked. Are your decisions based on logic or intimacy? Said another. Riley didn't blink. Would you be asking me that if I were a man? Silence. Uneasy. But she didn't back down. That night, she told Sienna everything. The questions. The tone. The veiled threats. They think I'm sleeping my way into power, she said. They think I'm your weakness. Sienna's voice was quiet. Are you regretting this?
No.
But I need to be more than the woman you love. I need to be respected on my own. You are. Then we need to act like it. The next morning, they arrived separately. Took separate elevators. Riley led the executive roundtable while Sienna handled investor relations. It was tactical, professional,
Strategic. And it was hell.
because the space between them wasn't emotional, it was armor. And both of them hated wearing it. 3 days later, Vivian struck. A memo leaked, one allegedly written by Riley 6 months earlier, suggesting that Hartwell's leadership was compromised by emotional entanglements. It was fake, clearly, but the damage was done. News outlets pounced. Articles used words like nepotism, bias, and manipulation. The board called another meeting, behind closed doors, without Sienna, without Riley. For 48 hours, everything hung in silence. Then came the message. The board would be holding a vote of no confidence in Riley's role as lead strategist. She wasn't being fired. She was being erased. Quietly, elegantly, sidelined without ceremony. That night, Sienna came to her apartment. No driver. No security. Just her. She looked wrecked. They're afraid, she said. They think if they remove you, the press will calm down. And you? I'm afraid too. But not of them. Of what, then? Sienna's voice broke. Of losing you. Of watching you bleed for me, again and again, while I stand in rooms that erase everything you are. Riley stared at her. Then let me fight. They'll come for you harder. They already are. Then let them. Sienna stepped forward. Or we leave. Walk away. Start something new. You and me. Our own firm. No boards. No politics. Just us. Riley's heart twisted. That sounds like a dream. Then let's make it real. But if I run now, I lose the war. Not if we take the battlefield with us. Riley exhaled. You'd really give it all up? Not for you. With you. And that was the difference. Not a rescue. A partnership. Not surrender. Strategy. 2 days later, the board prepared for the vote. Riley walked in with a portfolio in hand, handed each member a letter, her formal resignation as lead strategist. I won't give you the satisfaction of pushing me out, she said. But I also won't let you destroy what I helped rebuild. Then she turned to Sienna. Ready? Sienna stood. I'm resigning too. Effective immediately. Chaos. Voices. Lang shouting. You'll kill the company. Sienna smiled.
No.
We're setting it free. They left together. Cameras caught them holding hands. The internet exploded. Headlines clashed. But they didn't look back. 2 months later, a new firm launched. Bennett Hart. Consulting. Strategy. Reinvention. It trended on day one. Clients followed. Press fawned. Power shifted. And one night, as they stood in their new glass office, Riley wrapped her arms around Sienna from behind. You ever think we were crazy? All the time. Regret it? Never. Even if we fail? Sienna turned, kissed her slow. Then we fail together. But I'd rather fail in truth than succeed in silence. And outside, the city pulsed like a heart that refused to stop beating. Bennett Hart was a storm no one saw coming. In less than 30 days, they signed 5 major clients, 3 of them former Hartwell partners who'd followed the women behind the empire, not the empire itself. The firm's mission, bold strategy, ethical transparency, and adaptive leadership, hit a nerve in an industry hungry for reinvention. Riley became the face of execution. Systems. Structure. Vision. Sienna was fire and elegance, handling media, investors, and high-profile contracts with a sharp smile and a steel spine. Together, they were unstoppable. On the outside, but inside, cracks formed. Not between them,
Not yet.
but within Riley. At first, it was subtle. A hesitation before interviews. A moment of silence in strategy calls. But it built. Because everywhere she turned, the spotlight followed. The woman who challenged Hartwell. The assistant who rose. The girlfriend of a former CEO. That last one stung most. She hated that word. Girlfriend. As if she were a phase. A tag-along. A plot twist in someone else's story. She wanted to be more than the woman Sienna loved. She wanted to be the woman Sienna built this with. But power didn't erase insecurity. It just changed its shape. One night, after back-to-back meetings and an exhausting call with a potential European partner, Riley found herself alone in their office, staring at the city lights through the glass. Sienna entered quietly. "You're still here." Riley didn't turn. "So are you. We're going to burn out." "You think we already haven't?" Sienna stepped closer. "Talk to me." "It's nothing." "Don't do that." "Don't do what?" "Turn your fear into silence." "I know that move." Riley turned, eyes tired. "I thought I'd feel powerful. Finally having my name on the door. Finally doing this on my terms. But I feel like I'm constantly proving I belong. And I'm exhausted." "You do belong. Tell that to the clients who only want me if you're in the room. Or the reporters who call me the bold beauty beside the brilliant CEO. They're wrong. I know that. But I still hear it. And it makes me question everything. Especially when I look at you and wonder how the hell someone like you wants someone like me." Sienna didn't flinch. She walked forward. Took Riley's face in her hands. "Someone like you? I feel like a fraud." "Riley, I feel like one day you'll wake up and remember I was supposed to be your assistant, not your equal. Stop. That maybe this was all momentum. That you were just chasing guilt. Or adrenaline. Or maybe," Sienna kissed her. Hard. Quiet. Not passion. Not seduction. Just grounding. When she pulled back, she whispered, "I wake up every day and wonder if I deserve you. And that's how I know I do." Riley blinked, tears at the edge of her lashes. "I hate feeling small again." Then stopped shrinking. "You don't need my shadow. You build your own light. And what if that light burns too hot?" Sienna smiled, soft. "Then we burn together." The next morning, Sienna did something she'd never done before. She stepped back.
Publicly.
She canceled 3 appearances. Declined a magazine cover. In her place, Riley went. Alone. She sat on panels. Gave interviews. Took meetings. Not as a co-founder's girlfriend, but as the leader she had always been. And people listened. Really listened. Because now, there was no one standing in front of her brilliance. There was only her. At the same time, Sienna focused inward. She began mentoring a group of young female executives. Quietly.
Consistently.
She started using her influence not to command but to elevate. Together, they redefined what it meant to lead, to love, and to survive. But it wasn't easy. One night, weeks later, Riley came home to find Sienna on the balcony of their loft, barefoot, wine in hand, hair undone. She looked out at the city, like she was holding a secret. "What is it?" Riley asked. "I was offered a board seat," Sienna said. "Covington." Riley's breath hitched. "The same company that tried to take Hartwell from you?" "Apparently, they think I'm useful now." "Are you going to take it?" "I don't know." Riley walked to her. "Does it make you feel powerful?" "It makes me feel tempted." "Then we talk about it." "Not as CEO and strategist. As us." Sienna looked at her. "Would it change how you see me?" "Nothing could. But I want us to build a life we chose. Not a life we fell into. And if I want it, then we'll figure it out. But only if it's about the work. Not revenge." Sienna smiled. "You always know when I'm slipping." That's what partners do. They stood there, quiet. The skyline glowing. the world pulsing beneath their feet. And something shifted. Not drama, not chaos, just love.
Mature.
Earned. Real. Sienna turned. Do you ever think about forever? Riley smiled. I used to think it didn't exist. Now I think it's a choice we make every day. Then I choose it. With you. Even when I'm difficult? Especially then. Even when I doubt everything? That's when I'll hold you tighter. And if I forget how to be strong? Sienna pressed her lips to Riley's temple. Then I'll be strong for both of us. And for the first time, forever didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt like the next step. The email sat in Sienna's inbox for 3 days before she opened it again. Covington Group Board invitation. Confirm attendance?
It was sleek.
Professional. Prestigious. A seat at one of the most powerful tables in corporate America. One she'd once have killed for. Now, she wasn't sure it still belonged to the woman she was becoming. Riley didn't ask about it. Not once. Not directly. But Sienna could feel the question between them every time they passed in the hallway of their office, every time they touched hands in the elevator, every time Riley kissed her like she was afraid the ground beneath them might vanish again. Friday night, it all came to a head. They were home. Pizza half-eaten on the coffee table. A documentary playing unwatched. Sienna sat cross-legged on the couch, laptop in her lap, fingers frozen above the keyboard. I'm going to decline, she said softly. Riley didn't look up from where she sat on the floor, leaning against the couch. You sure? No, then don't do it for me. I'm not. Then why? Sienna closed the laptop and placed it aside. Because I know who I am without them.
For the first time in my life.
I used to think power was about being feared.
About being the last one standing.
But it's not. It's about building something that outlives you. And I want to build that with you. Riley turned slowly. Her eyes searched Sienna's. You're really choosing me. No, Sienna reached down, laced their fingers together. I'm choosing us. Riley stood, stepped into her space. Then marry me. Silence.
A breath.
Sienna blinked. What? You heard me. You're serious. I'm tired of waiting for the next storm. I want to choose joy. Every day. Out loud. Sienna's voice cracked. I never imagined this. A future where I get to be loved and still be myself. Then let's stop imagining and start living it. Tears spilled silently down Sienna's cheeks as she nodded.
Yes.
Yes, I'll marry you. They didn't plan a wedding right away. They were too busy building. But they wore rings. Thin bands of gold they chose together on a quiet Sunday afternoon. No photographers. No press releases. Just them in a small shop downtown trying to pick something that felt like home. Bennett Hart thrived. They signed international clients. Created a mentorship network for women in leadership. Reinvested profits into community programs that rewrote what corporate responsibility could look like. And still, the world questioned them. They got called radical. Disruptive. Emotional. They embraced every word. Because the empire they were building wasn't for approval, it was for legacy. One morning, nearly a year after their first kiss, they found themselves in Paris for a global summit. The night before Sienna was set to speak on a panel about ethical innovation, they walked along the Seine, coats wrapped tight, fingers intertwined. Do you ever miss it? Riley asked. Hartwell. The old version of you. No, Sienna said. I miss the illusion sometimes. The ease of being feared instead of vulnerable. But this life, this love, it's harder. And better. Riley stopped walking. Pulled Sienna close. I love you. Sienna smiled. I never get tired of hearing that. Then I'll keep saying it. Every day. They kissed beneath the glow of city lights, in a city that didn't know their story, but somehow understood its ending. A week later, they married in Italy. Quietly. On a hill surrounded by cypress trees and the smell of sun-warmed olives. No press. No investors. Just 10 people who loved them and a promise whispered like prayer. I see you. I choose you. I will never shrink you to feel strong. They danced barefoot in the grass. Ate cake with their fingers. fell asleep tangled in sheets and laughter. And somewhere, deep in the part of them that had once believed love had to be earned through pain, they made peace with the truth. Real love is not found in grand gestures or perfect timing. It's found in the quiet choice to keep showing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Sienna Hartwell didn't lose her empire. She transformed it. And Riley Bennett didn't remain someone's assistant. She became the architect of her own legacy and the woman who rewrote the ending for both of them. Together, they didn't just survive.
They soared.
If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.